Well, we are super excited to start off this whole session with Martin Pazzani. We met Martin maybe a couple years ago now. It's been a couple years. Martin got in contact with us. He has an incredible background in the fitness industry. Over 30 years of experience. He was the Chief Marketing Officer for Bally Total Fitness and Crunch. And he really came from a non-fitness background. He came from a marketing background. And so he came to kind of the fitness industry with new eyes and saw that a lot of the stuff we were doing was focusing on the same exercising people, right? Instead of reaching out to everyone else. And so he instituted a new marketing effort that gained over 1 million members in 12 months. So he says he's put more people in fitness clubs than any of us in the room put together, right? In fact, it was so successful, it was a Harvard Business School case study. That's how successful it was. Well, over the years, in his 30 years of experience, he's worked across 6 continents. He's a serial entrepreneur in lots of different areas, such as music, the food industry, spirits and wine, automotive. I mean, he has a diverse experience. But what obviously we are most excited about is for someone with such a huge background in our industry and where we've come from to see where the opportunity is with the boomers. And so his newest venture that he's most passionate about is Activate Brain and Body. And this is a model that is focused on the baby boomer generation that not only gets them to physical fitness, but to high levels of mental and cognitive fitness as well, because that is a huge, huge concern and a huge fear of the older population. So we know with his model and with his passion, what he's doing, he's going to really impact the trajectory of aging for lots and lots of people. So we are very excited and honored to have with us Martin Pazzani.
So thanks for the introduction. That was half my presentation. So now we can focus on the good stuff. Age younger is the motto of my company, Activate Brain and Body. And we will go into that a bit. But I really want to talk about the opportunity here. And as a result of that background I have, I've been studying the fitness category from a macro level for a really long time. And I've had the opportunity, because of Bally and Crunch and 24-Hour Fitness, to spend about $1 million on consumer research, a lot of it focused on the senior market. So I've got an insight that I'm going to share with you on how to take the business from what it is now to what I think it's going to be in the future. And it's going to involve all you, no question about it. And as Cody said, I met Dan and Cody a couple years ago. They immediately joined our board. We saw instant compatibility between what we were doing and what they want to do. And it was so compatible, in fact, that, I got to do this over here. Yeah, right. Dan, I'm sorry. I know you guys go way back to Purdue. Cody, I'm sorry. Dan and I are soulmates. As of yesterday, Facebook told us. So, did anybody do that yesterday? Boy, the pairings you got, or if you did it, it's just unbelievable who you get paired up with. Anyway, my talk is called The Untapped Opportunity in 50 Plus. In America alone, there are 92 million people above age 45 who are basically ignored by the fitness industry. Okay, that's a gargantuan market. And what's interesting is they're starting to pay attention to the challenges of aging in a way that's going to transform a lot of businesses. And one thing that's different about this generation is they're going to defy aging. They've looked ahead to the way their parents were aging and figured out, and that's us, I don't want to age that way. I want to be different. I can remember when my grandfather turned 60, I thought he was ancient. I'm going to be 60 next year, and boy, I don't feel that way at all. So I think there's a generational shift in what age is about, and our generation is going to fight it at all costs. I got to keep remembering to switch this thing. So again, my background has a lot of fitness industry stuff in it. I had the opportunity to work at Bally, and this goes back a decade, during a very interesting period when it was in a transformation. And I'm going to show you something we did that is very relevant for all of us. In a way, we talk to consumers and convince people who weren't engaged by the fitness category to join in droves. And it can be done again. Hasn't been done since. So, just a little bit about what I'm doing right now. I've got this startup fitness company called Activate Brain and Body. We've been doing this for 3 years. We're about ready to launch. We saw a lot of the opportunities we're going to talk about today, have assembled them, and started out thinking we were going to do really high-end brick-and-mortar clubs. But over the course of the last year, we've sort of morphed our business model into a fitness club in the cloud. Have any of you seen Doctor on Demand, where you pair a doctor with a client? We think remote coaching is a great way to offer what we have figured out how to do on a very broad scale basis. And so we're about to launch a pilot. Some of you actually are coaches or future coaches. And we're about to launch a pilot that will put us on the path to introducing this globally, hopefully by the end of the year. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but really what I want to talk about here today is a view of the fitness industry. When I joined Bally, I was really stunned by how self-congratulatory not only Bally but the industry was, in that they were talking about 50 million members. At the time it was 40. There's over 50,000 fitness facilities in America. That's 1,000 per state. There's a $50 billion category that's been created out of nothing. And the industry is very happy with this, and by some standards, it is a reason to be happy. A lot of people have made some money off this. It's helped some people. But as a marketer, my job was to, how do I engage people that aren't currently going to the club? Because when you think about if Bally attracts people from 24-Hour Fitness, attracts people from LA Fitness, you're basically trading members and the industry isn't growing and you're not helping more people, which is what has been happening in this category for a long time. My concern was, what about the 250 million other people who are not members, not engaged by fitness? And why are they not engaged? And what can you do to bring more of them in? And what would happen if you did that? So I actually think the fitness business, in some ways, is a failed business model. And I'm hypercritical about it because I saw it from the inside and how it was very self-serving. Most of the big fitness companies are not necessarily concerned about the health of their members. They say they are, but they're concerned about the revenue they get from their members. It ignores 2/3 of the customers, as we said. The focus is on sales revenue, not results. And the thing that troubles me the most about the fitness industry's self-congratulatory attitude is that it grew while America grew. Over the last 2 or 3 decades, we have become a horribly unfit nation. I mean, you can't, if you go to Disney World or go to any airport, you see people, it's remarkable. And also, what troubles me, I got on the flight yesterday on Southwest, and I'm sure you've all seen this. There were 11 wheelchairs lined up to get on the flight. And I'm looking at those people, and they're not all 75. There's some 62-year-olds who should be walking, who are not able to walk across the airport. So I think the fitness business has failed too many people, and I think a lot needs to be done about it, as do Dan and Cody, as do all of you. So that's kind of why we're here. Let's pull back a little bit. Let's look at the cost of being unfit. You know, the fact is, being unhealthy is extremely expensive. Not only is it uncomfortable, and it is going to bankrupt America if we don't do something about it. No matter what healthcare system you subscribe to, what you believe in, it's unaffordable to take care of tons, millions more people above 70 who are ill and require medical assistance. X1 on that graph is the way it was 3 decades ago. People died in their early 70s. They didn't have a chance to experience 20 more years of life in bad health. Now, medical science, you can keep really sick people alive for a long time. And boy, is that expensive. Wouldn't it be better, and the saying is, live long and die short. Wouldn't it be better to live a long life and then die in 2 months fast, instead of going on a downhill slide for 10 years? Much better for everybody, and much better for every individual, because you have a higher quality of life. So it's unaffordable. Then you add to it the population bubble. The baby boomer population bubble is the widest bubble in American history. You can see right now, 45-year-olds and 50-year-olds, there's almost 50 million. The thing about this group and older, they have a habit of reinventing every category they've passed through. They aren't going to age like their parents, and they're looking for solutions that aren't there. So it's a beautiful market. I see this as opportunity. In fact, it's creating a thing called the longevity economy. It's going to fundamentally change everything. Every category is going to be affected by how older people pass through it. It's totally unstoppable. There's nothing anybody can do about it. It's right now about $4 trillion. And while we celebrate the fact that between 1900 and now, lifespans have almost doubled, the downside of that is, how do we live with that? How do we adapt to that? How do products adapt to that? How does the culture adapt to it? It's going to change everything. It's unstoppable. Now, if you look at it from a business perspective, there's a lot of opportunity for those of us who can see the future. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So the beginning of what's happening, kind of some interesting stuff, I would give anything to go back to school and be an ophthalmologist. I had to pick up a pair of glasses for my mother about 3 weeks ago. I went to where she goes, and there was 100 people in line to get their glasses, and there was 2 senior centers with buses dropping off people at the eye doctor. I'm thinking, where do you get that? Where does that happen? I mean, it's amazing. So I'd love to be in the business of fixing people's eyes. But, the fitness companies are starting to adapt. I don't know if any of you have seen Nifty After 50, but there's about 30 clubs catering to an older population in LA, and I think there's a few in Phoenix, actually. It's the beginnings of something interesting. It's grown out of a rehab model. There's a Midwestern franchise called Wellsion. It's got about 10 clubs now. I think they're North Dakota, Minnesota. And so you're starting to see, on a small scale, the business of focusing on people above 50 kind of amassing the way the original fitness business did in 1975. And that's exciting, and that's the tidal wave we want to ride. Now, this is an opportunity, but it's a sad statement. The fact is, most Americans spend about 8 years at the end of their lives incapacitated or unable to do things such as getting up from a chair or walking. All of this is preventable, and that's what we want to do something about. You've even seen products at the beginning of the longevity economy. Has anyone seen this ad for the car cane? It's a little thing that you carry around with you. When you open the car door, you put it where the lock was, and you use it to get out of the car. Now think about that. We're talking about people who are driving around, but they can't get up out of the car, and there's a product for that. Now at some point real soon Buick is going to have that built in, but the other alternative is, and when I saw that commercial, I went, that's great. The guy's able to get up out of the car. If he needs that, how can he walk to where he's going? So there are a lot of unanswered questions about the longevity economy. There's a lot of products that are going to spring up, but there's also the opportunity to help these people avoid needing these assistance products. And the key question I have is, the longevity economy going to be passive or active? If the fitness business doesn't respond, I think it's going to be passive. But I think that we have the ability to create programs and tools to engage more people and get them to take the steps towards being active and taking charge of their own fitness. Right now, too many are passive. Here's the way the fitness business works. About 30 to 33% up to age 45 are members of the fitness business, but at 45, goes off a cliff. Membership plummets down to 10% or less. There's a lot of reasons for that, but weirdly, the fitness business thinks it's inevitable. They think that's just the way it is. People get tired of being fit. They slide into old age. The inevitability of old age is there, and why don't we still keep focusing on youth? That's fine, but I'm not buying that. I think this is a group that is searching for solutions that aren't there. I think they don't want to age that way. They're fearful, actually, of it, and getting more fearful of the expense of an unhealthy older age. So this is a tidal wave, again, an unstoppable tectonic force. And again, I've always asked myself, what can we do about this? Why is this the case? Especially when you ask seniors. They say 99% of them agree it's important to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but only 16% of them actually engage the fitness business to get to that point. The gap in there is opportunity for all of us. If we can figure out ways to get more people to engage, that's a huge opportunity. And that's what I spent most of my time on. I wasn't too concerned about how to get members to switch from LA Fitness to Bally or whatever. I was concerned with how do you get people who have never been in a fitness club to join, because that's where all the people are. That's where the people who need it the most. Unfortunately, Bally was not the answer. And after I left, I'll go through that case. I'm going to show you some stuff. It slid into its old habits again, and it's practically not even in business anymore. And part of the problem with it is the whole industry. The problem with the industry is its shortcomings are self-imposed. Their worst enemy is themselves. And you know, I did an interview recently where the headline wound up being, Arnold Schwarzenegger has done more to hurt America's fitness than to help it, and that got some people interested. And I heard Arnold got kind of pissed about it, but I do think it's true. The pumping iron mentality worked for about 10% of the population, but it scared off about 50%. I saw it myself. I did mystery shopping in a lot of fitness clubs, and you sit there, and you know there's usually, in Bally we used to call it the cage, where the weights are and the big guys are. And you'd see a new member come in, and there would actually be a physical hesitation, like, I'm not sure I want to go in there, I'm scared. And especially if it's a new member woman. And so I've seen it, I've researched it, and if you dig into people, you find out that they're kind of scared of that. Then, I don't know if any of you saw, very few people saw the movie Perfect, 1984, John Travolta, Jamie Lee Curtis. It was filmed at a Bally, and it made the industry seem like it was a fashion show / disco, which, again, worked for about 10%, and it worked in LA. It did not play in the rest of America. It made people think, I don't want to go in there, that's not my vibe. And then, you know, the naked stuff, you know, that people think for shock effect works. It winds up being intimidated, it's self-centered, and it alienates a lot of people. And frankly, there's also been an element of dishonesty in the business. You know, the tricky pricing and all that stuff has scared a lot of people away, and they never came back. So this has all got to be dealt with. This didn't help either. Right at the peak of the jogging craze, the guy who popularized it drops dead while jogging of a heart attack. So, now, turned out it wasn't because of his jogging, he had some kind of a condition. But boy, that was at a setback too. So there's lasting impact from that. So here's what I learned. When I arrived at Bally, they had a 20-year history of thinking about the world in the old way. And I'm going to show you a couple spots that ran in the early 80s and in the 90s, and you'll see what I mean. Hopefully this will work.
Come into Bally's world and get your body beautiful for just $5 to start. Take your first step now and receive up to 3 personal training sessions at no additional charge. Start to shape the life you dream about for just $5. Call Bally at 1-800-FITNESS today and change your world.
Now, that horrifies me. I once gave this at a presentation, and everyone said, you did that? I went, no, that was 2 decades before me. I call it the Bally effect. It makes the perception of what a fitness club is like totally wrong. It chased a lot of people away. It's loud, extroverted, mirrors, crowds, competitive, all kinds of weird dynamics going on. Is it a fitness center? Is it a disco club? Some of the Bally clubs in Vegas and LA actually had disco lights going on. Go figure. But you know, because they were enjoying success, that became the industry standard, and it was copied by a lot of people. And it actually did grow the business. But again, it alienated a lot of people. This is the one that was about 2001, just before I arrived. This is the one that made me crazy.
Guaranteed to whip you up into shape. Maybe you have no butt. Well, this is the workout you asked for. Maybe you have too much butt. Well, we'll put a big end to that. It's the pain in the butt workout, and it's only at Bally Total Fitness. Call 1-800-FITNESS and take a
Sign me up. I want that. Did you hear the last line? The last line was a crack joke. It's like, oh, come on. So, and I give Nike a little bit of the responsibility for this too, because no pain, no gain. Great slogan. It built that company, and it worked for a lot of people. And it's basically true, as we know. If you're a competitive athlete, that's how you think. But if you're an average person, it's scary. You don't want to join a club to be in pain. You certainly don't want to get whipped. So, or at least not whipped that way. And then there's this whole part of the business. Now, my old company, Crunch, actually started this. They were the place where the beautiful people in Manhattan and LA went. And the motto for Crunch was, no judgments. When in reality, it was hyper-judgmental. If you weren't a model, don't bother coming in here because we're going to make fun of you. And that's the message that Crunch did. And actually grew. And it's now been adopted by David Barton, and Equinox is doing it pretty well. I think Equinox is a great company, but they're not for everybody. They're continuing that we're for beautiful people. That's a niche. That's not the fitness business of the future. The fitness business of the future is focused on the mass market. The mass market is people above 50 who are turned off by a lot of this stuff. Now, I know this is risky to show this slide in this room. But in the past, present company accepted, there's been a very low bar for personal trainers in the mass market, and that's one of the major contributors to why the fitness business has never appealed to a broader audience. A lot of them come into the business for the wrong reasons. A lot of them are totally untrained and unskilled, not customer-centric, and frankly unprofessional. There's been lots of problems, lots of lawsuits, and then when they promote themselves, there's this narcissistic thing in a lot of trainers that turns a lot of people off. I'm really happy you got washboard abs, but the focus is on your customer, not on your abs. So I don't think that's aspirational for a lot of people. If you're an Olympic athlete, yeah, I want to train like that guy. But for most people, this is a turnoff. And so it becomes a matter of vocabulary and how you talk to people, how we engage people. And that's what's in the process of changing. The look at me thing is not going to work in the future with the older audience. The how can I help you is going to work. That's what it's about. And again, it's not going to work. The old model is not going to work in a culture of inactivity, and that's what we have. Just look at that. Sitting is the smoking of our generation. This is an inactive culture. We sit in front of our screen all day. It's been the bane of my existence, being on the internet for work. And we have to offset this. We have to get people up. And the next generation, I worry about the generation after us too. So what to do? I think it's time to reinvent the fitness business. There's a lot of people working on this, but I've done a lot of research on this, and I've got 6 pieces of advice. Some of them will apply to you. Some of them will apply to other companies. I offer them up as food for thought. So one of them is terminology. In the old fitness world, I call it URSA world. Youth-focused, self-service, unsuitable trainers, fad practices. It's acquisition-focused, meaning I don't care about your fitness, I just want you to be a member. And it churns members. It doesn't care about long-term relationships, doesn't care about lifestyle. The future is 50 plus. The idea that fitness is medicine is a growing concept, and people are starting to understand that, and even the medical community is starting to understand that. We have to start thinking of ourselves as professional caregivers. And that's going to require a lot of retooling, both in what's in your heads, how clubs operate, how the process works. It's got to be science-based. There's a lot of research on what works and what doesn't. It's got to be relationship-focused, long-term. Fitness it's a lifestyle if it's going to work. It's not a fad. It's not join, and in 8 weeks you're fit. You got to work this into your life. And so as a result, you have to have a relationship with your clients. And again, long-term lifestyle. So that's the beginning of retooling the business. It's how you think about it and how you refer to it. So number one, the gym experience has to change. I don't even like the word gym anymore. Gym implies sweatshop and guys in the cage. And you see it. No one's really put this together completely, but you're starting to see it. This was in a Los Angeles newspaper. Gym's older members feeling muscled out as a result of an Equinox coming and taking over a space that was, I think it was an LA Fitness, and the people were leaving because people who had been going to that club for years, not that LA Fitness was perfect, all of a sudden felt out of place in an Equinox. So the intimidation factor has to be removed. There's a bunch of ways to do that, a lot of ways, and we've been working on them. I'm not going to go into all of them, some of them. But clubs can be redesigned without compromise for older people. There's different design for a person who's 60 than for a person who's 30. Things like the length of the steps. High steps are not good for people 65. There's a certain way to design a staircase that minimizes falls. All kinds of design implications. We actually have on our staff a designer who's a gerontologist. Go figure, architect, gerontologist. That's going to be the future, is rearranging the way every aspect of the gym works for an older population. Here's the feedback I've gotten on the research we've done. What's wrong with the current gym experience? Well, first of all, I have a thing about noise and being loud, but there's a medical reason for it as well. It makes me crazy to hear a 110 decibel Zumba class spilling out into the entire club. I don't think everybody needs to have that kind of intense music to get motivated to work out. Some do, and it's great for if you're 30, but if you're 60, that's driving me somewhere else. And what it does, actually, if you're 60, loud music creates stress. It creates cortisol in your brain. The cortisol in your brain is telling you to flee when you hear that kind of loud environment. And it could be an explosion, or it could be a loud rap song that you're not getting into. Music and noise in a club, got it totally wrong. No privacy. People above 50, 45 like a little privacy. They don't want to be on display. They're concerned about the sanitation of clubs. Everyone's a little concerned about cleanliness right now. Most of the equipment is totally wrong for an older audience. It's designed for a different world. And if you could ask every legacy health club what they would do right now, if it didn't cost them so much, they would totally change their equipment to be more user-friendly instead of the intense Nautilus-style stuff that's out there now. Harsh lighting, different mood. Not my crowd. There's nothing you can do about this. This isn't discriminatory, but people above 50 don't want to hang around with 25-year-olds all the time. They want to escape. You don't want everything that comes with youth to be when you're going to relax and work out and to have your special experience. So there's a reason why we should be separated. It needs separate environment. And then the last reason, again, I'll come back to it, predatory trainers. Go into a big club, and you can tell their whole job is to get you to give them money to buy that training package, and they don't care about the long-term relationship. They don't care about measuring your results. What they want from you is buy this package. And the moment they find out you're not going to buy it, you're invisible to them. You're totally invisible. I've seen it happen myself dozens of times. Again, one of my favorite things to do was mystery shop clubs and go in as a new member and see what happens. And boy, all of a sudden, you see 6 trainers. Oh, new guy. Let me get him before someone else does. Wow. I also have a little anecdote, and I'm not going to name the company or the place, but there was a region of America in a big fitness club where the deliberate strategy for trainers was to hire ex-convicts. And the reason for that was, anybody want to guess? They're buff, been in jail for 20 years, you're lifting weights, you're looking pretty good. So if looks are the qualification for trainers, which it was in many cases, that's totally backwards. It's totally backwards. So predatory trainers are part of the problem. That needs to be redesigned. You guys are the beginning of that, and others like you. There's a lot of people who get it. Hasn't gotten into the mainstream yet, but it will. Okay, meme. It's a word that means information gets passed around through word of mouth and into the culture. We need to build a new fitness meme. The way we depict fitness, the way we talk about fitness, the stories we tell, it needs to age. It needs to adapt to the older population because everyone here is looking to reinvent the process of aging, not give in to the process of aging. By the way, the guy on the left is kind of famous. His name is Don Wildman. He's the founder of Bally. He sold it to the disco company, but he's a original, he's like a Jack LaLanne kind of guy, and he's now 85 doing triathlons at 40-year-old times. So he is living legend in how he lives his life and proof that if you stay fit, you don't have to give in to aging. So the terminology has to evolve. Now, I'm not certain, but I think my old company, Crunch, invented boot camp. Nothing wrong with boot camp. A lot of people don't want to go through military training to get fit. So I love functional fitness and what that is. I think we're going to go through some renaming and rebranding, but giving it a militaristic, Olympian, elite approach is not going to work. Functional fitness is the future. Talking about ripped, not so good anymore. Talking about holistic balance, much more important. No pain, no gain. I like to think injury protection and a safe environment can exist where people, one of the things you hear back is, I don't want to go into the weight room because I'm afraid of dropping something on myself. So gyms can be unsafe for a senior population. You start to hear people talk about mental fitness as being important, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but we've discovered that above 50, and increasingly with age, the concept of brain health becomes super important. That's one of the things that my new company is based on, is brain health. And then compete is a turnoff for a lot of people. Improve is the language that they're after. Compete to a lot of people means I'm going to lose, because they're used to they were the kid who didn't get picked in gym class for the football team or whatever. That mentality is still in a lot of adults. Competition is not for everybody. Self-improvement is what you have to think about. I find it fascinating that the beginning of the fitness industry was Jack LaLanne, and then we went to the Arnold thing. I think we're going right back to Jack LaLanne. I think that's where this is, and I think Cody and Dan's program is basically Jack LaLanne. Think about this. He was in the kitchen with a broom and a chair doing functional fitness in 1958. And, by the way, he lived to be 94, and at age 90, he pulled a yacht across San Francisco Harbor with his teeth, swimming across the harbor, okay? So talk about defying aging. This guy's my fitness hero is Jack LaLanne. I think he's coming back. All right, new imagery. Now, I talked about the Bally case study. Years of disco. So my team got there, and I brought in a lot of people who had never worked in the fitness category, new advertising people, new marketing people, and our whole thought was, how do we talk to people in a different way, and how do we talk to people who would never go into a Bally? And by the way, what was happening at the same time was Curves was going wild. Curves had figured out that if you create a safe environment for women who would never go into a Bally, you're going to have millions of members. And look what Curves grew to be a big company. So I wanted a little piece of that, and I thought, interesting. How can we shape the way Bally talks to people? And this is our first approach, and I want to tell you something. This is the most successful ad in fitness history. Totally different from anything you've ever expected, but it drove more people to the clubs than any other ad.
Having trouble getting down to one size and staying there? You're not alone. Everybody needs something. Call Bally Total Fitness at 1-800-FITNESS.
If you don't look and feel better in 30 days, we'll refund your money. We guarantee it.
It was amazing to us. It was like flipping a switch. All of a sudden, people who would have never called the number started calling the number, and then they started showing up at the clubs, and then they started joining. I'm sorry to tell you, not all of them stayed forever, but the messaging can be altered drastically to attract vast amounts of new people to fitness. Let me show you this one here, which is even more radical for the fitness industry, which worked just as well.
About a year and a half ago, I made a decision that changed my life. This was me then, and this is me now.
Yeah, you're a show-off.
Oh, really? Diet alone never worked for me. So I joined Bally Total Fitness and started on a program of diet and exercise and lost the weight. I needed help. That's why I called Bally Total Fitness.
I couldn't believe the change in her.
So not only did I lose the weight, but I encouraged my sister to get started too.
I'm not where I want to be right now, but I'm well on my way.
I'm so proud of us.
You're gonna make me cry.
Get started now for as little as $18 down and $18 a month during our sizzling summer sale.
If you don't look and feel better in 30 days, we'll refund your money.
We'll refund your money? Bally will refund your money.
Oh yeah, We now both work at a Bally Total Fitness Club.
Don't dance.
Join Bally Total Fitness now for as little as $18.
By the way,
down
10
and
years later, they're
$18 a
both
month
trainers.
during our
They live in New
sibling
Jersey.
sale. It's your
It
chance
changed their lives. But this was radical, and I have to tell you, the Bally club managers, they did not want this to happen. They fought this. They were really upset that we were going down this path until people started showing up at the club and joining. They thought it was the totally wrong thing, and I was so pleased that we actually went down that path. It brought 1 million new members to Bally over a 12-month period. So I can tell you that when you change the messaging and the language and the visuals, the market gets much, much bigger. And that same dynamic is going to happen when we start talking to people above 50 in a different way. I know it. I'll show you some of the stuff that we're working on in a minute. Part 3, embrace quantified self. How many of you are advising your clients to wear a tracker, a Fitbit or whatever? You know they sold 11 million Fitbits last year? Well, they finally figured out that if you make it like a watch, it's gonna take off. And so we're at the very early stage of fitness tracking, but it's going to be critical because being able to measure things is the first step in being able to improve them and get real results that translate into a better health outcome. Multidimensional measurement. It's not just how many steps you take. There's a lot of things that can be measured to get a holistic approach, a holistic look at a person's health. And we're going to start measuring a bunch of these going forward in a very interesting way. And I think measurement is going to change everything. Now, here's the thing that has fascinated me the most about fitness. I have found that if you put the brain first in communicating with people above 50, they all of a sudden see fitness in a new light. Brain health is starting to get a lot of research interest, a lot of talk about it. A lot of companies are springing up around the idea of brain health. Who hasn't seen a Lumosity ad, like a personal trainer for your brain? That has popularized the idea that you can take your brain health into your own hands and do something about it. But really, this is the fascinating thing. Remember when we were kids, they used to tell you, you're born with a finite number of brain cells, nothing you can do about it. You have a drink, you're killing brain cells, you can't get them back. You can get them back. And you get them back through a thing called neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is rebuilding brain cells. You rebuild brain cells, how? Exercise. Certain kinds of exercise create a hormone in your blood called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And through getting your heart rate up for a sustained amount of time with the right intensity, it creates BDNF in your blood. When that BDNF runs through your head, it has the potential to build new brain cells. So you can actually reverse the process of aging through exercise. Now, this is the very early stage. This is being researched in a lot of places. It isn't 100% researched by MRIs and dissection, but all the evidence is there that this is real. You've all heard the story about the London taxi drivers who have to go through 10 years of intense training to memorize the map of London. Well, as it turns out, that intense memorization process, do you know what that does? It doubles the size of their hippocampus, which is where your memory is. They have Arnold Schwarzenegger hippocampus size. Their brains have changed by going through that long-term process of learning new things. And that's the key, is learning. So there's this thing called neuroplasticity, and it involves, we've all heard the concept of muscle memory. You know when you learn a complex motor function, the golf swing, hitting a curveball, something that involves complex motor skills and vision, that's not muscle memory. What that is your brain building a pathway through the millions of cells that controls all the aspects of that motion. It creates a pathway. The fact is, the more neural pathways you create through activity and learning, the more resilient your brain will be. And in theory, almost proven, that can not only slow the aging process, but we believe it can reverse or prevent the process of dementia or possibly Alzheimer's. That's being researched right now in a big way. We're very excited about this. Again, the brain-body connection is big, and it's starting to be written about in the mass market, and I think you're going to see that over the next 10 years, because if you ask people what they're scared of after cancer, number 2 is dementia. It's a horrible situation to live with, and I'm sure everybody in here probably knows of someone or has someone in their family who's lived through it. Horrible. So here's the thing. The Mayo Clinic is doing this study, just issued in March. Aging and cognitive function. And what happens? What creates aging, basically, is cardiovascular disease, vascular dysfunction, and then pathology of Alzheimer's, which basically means your brain grows plaque and creates bundles of stuff. I like to use the analogy of it's like your heart. Your heart gets buildup in it and creates blockages. Same thing happens in your brain, as it turns out, if you're not exercising it, if you're not thinking. So cognitive function is impacted by declining physical activity and health. And as it turns out, what was that? What happened here? Did you go to sleep? So basically what happens is when you introduce exercise into the equation, exercise is the green square, it impacts cognitive function. And the words the Mayo Clinic is now using is neuroprotection. That means that you build new cognitive pathways, you build insulation in your brain. The more cognitive reserve you have, the more resistance you're going to have to aging and any cognitive decline. Cerebrovascular reserve. All this means is extra resilience in your brain. And it's due to exercise. This is a concept we were playing around with. I'm not sure we're ever going to do this. I tested it, and it actually, believe it or not, gets the attention of fat guys. Everyone else is horrified by it. But the fact is, if you're obese, your brain shrinks by 8%. Turns to cauliflower. So when you confront people with the knowledge that, go ahead, have the extra bucket of wings, and don't worry too much about how many calories you're taking in, and that, you can always take care of that gut when you're 60. You're killing your brain. That means something to people. Even if you don't care how you look, you're killing your brain. So, number 5, I think we need a higher standard for personal trainers. That's what this is all about. I think we're going to see this entire career be elevated to the point closer to medicine than it is now. It's right now thought of as used car salesman, mortgage salesman. It's not respected. It needs to be respected. And the way to get that to happen, advanced professional certifications and education like this, and there's only going to be more later on in the next decade, experience, focus on the customer, not on your own abs. Outcome-oriented. It's not about signing up people, it's about getting results for people, and that's a different philosophy, and it's about having a caregiving mentality. Right now, that doesn't exist much. I know I've seen it in older trainers. They get it. The majority of trainers don't. So as the population of trainers gets more professional, this will help the industry and will welcome people back to the industry. And again, kudos to you guys, Dan and Cody, what you're doing here. This is the beginning of the future of fitness. So you're starting to see trainers get it too in how they approach their own businesses. You don't see abs here. You see results, you see clients, you see a different, friendlier, more welcoming approach to bringing people into your business. That's what the older market wants. Fitness is medicine is starting to get around. And there's a lot of people here who buy into that, I know. The AARP says consumers, those older consumers, prefer sources supported by doctors and professionals that are current and up to date with supporting statistical data. No more freelancing in fitness. What's going to matter is evidence-based fitness. Show me what it does. Show me the study, and have it endorsed by a group of doctors. That's going to matter a lot. In fact, to the point where what I'm trying to do with my company, Activate, and I think more people need to do, is reinvent the fitness category as upstream preventive healthcare. Healthcare because what we do is health-related. Preventive because it obviously prevents illness. But the word that I emphasize is upstream. It has to take place early enough so that you don't get sick. you don't get diabetes, you don't develop cardiovascular disease. It's got to be a maintenance process. And I think if we focus on outcomes instead of member acquisition, if we think about compliance, the way it's a medical term, stick with the program, as opposed to member incentives, workout intensity, not attendance. That's the thing that matters the most. What matters is doing the right kind of workout, not just wandering around the gym socializing, not just half-assed, but doing the workout. That's what matters. Got to be science-based and think risk reduction, not curing things. And there's a study that came out, risk reduction. This chart that you can't read is the number of cases of Alzheimer's that could be prevented through exercise. If the process of getting more people up reduces the risk of Alzheimer's by 10%, that's 1 million fewer cases a year. If it's reduced by 25%, that's 3 million fewer cases a year. Imagine if it's reduced by 50%. That's practically transformational. So again, I see fitness as morphing into upstream preventive health care. So the big questions behind my company, Activate, how much better off would we be if the aging population were active instead of sitting in a wheelchair like I saw them yesterday in Southwest Airlines? How much better would your life be if your brain lasted as long as your body? Because you're going to live to be 90 most likely. You want your brain to be with you the whole time. Imagine if the fitness business attracted people who are older instead of repelling them. And imagine if Lumosity and all those other brain games actually worked. What makes them work? They work if you're doing a fitness program while you're playing Lumosity. So we created a process, science-based, technology-driven, combines stress reduction with aerobic exercise, with brain exercise, with resistance training. A brain-body program. It's got a lot of apps, it's got a lot of new techniques, and it's got a lot of what Dan and Cody have supplied. It gets personalized, but what makes it work, the shortcoming of almost every fitness program out there, it requires skilled coaching. And that's what the future is going to be. If you think about every human activity that requires results, learning to play the piano, golf, just about anything. You need a coach to get really better. You can teach yourself to play the piano, but you're not going to be very good at it. If you have a coach, you're going to be great. Fitness is the same. So I am convinced the future is in skilled coaching, and that's what our company is going to deliver, is a series of skilled coaches. We're going to connect them over an app, over a desktop app, to a remote client. So it's fitness on demand, not doctor on demand. And that's what we're trialing it right now. The results are really, really promising. Some of you in this room are part of it. We're really excited about that. And we think the future is in focusing on an older population and delivering an integrated program with a skilled coach. That's going to be the key thing. Now, I've been talking about the trajectory of aging. The red line is the way your brain declines with age. It goes down fast with trauma. It goes down slower if you are inactive and you get dementia. But the normal decline, it just happens with age. So the motto of my company is to impact the trajectory of aging. And I believe that we can radically improve that line through exercise. And if that line goes up, healthcare costs go down, people have a lot healthier lives, they get to see their great-grandchildren, the benefits are profound. And that's what we're after, and I know that's what you're after. So it's basically moving that curve up, and I think we all can do that together. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you.